Civilization or Barbarism, an Authentic Anthropology by Dr. Cheikh Anta Diop. The power of the pharaoh over the vassals was absolute. The vassal had to be obedient and faithful and had to execute orders, whatever they might be. He had to respect the pharaoh as a god because, according to the diplomatic formulary imposed on the vassal, the pharaoh and his king, his god, his son, at whose feet he bows 7 and 7 times. The tributes collected in 1 year under Thutmose III by his vizier or chancellor, Recamera, represented the colossal value for that period of 36,692 deben of gold, or more than 3 metric tons, of which 2,700 kilos came from the Asiatic provinces and the islands of the Aegean Sea alone. Figures 22, 23, 24, 25. In addition to the compulsory annual tribute representing the collective tax of the whole conquered nation, evaluated according to its wealth, the vassal owed other types of help, gifts to the royal messengers, sending slaves, generally women, to the Egyptian king each time the vassal addressed the pharaoh to ask a favor of him. The pharaoh could at any moment require money, chariots, horses, compulsory war service. The vassal was constantly under the orders of the Egyptian generals. The pharaoh judged and arbitrated conflicts between vassals. He could order one of them to arrest a disloyal peer. The vassals enjoyed only internal autonomy. In fact, they had lost their international sovereignty. They could not directly deal with foreign lands. If his territory were invaded, the vassal had to report without delay to his lord, his son, his god, the pharaoh. He was declared a felon and beheaded if he separately made peace with an enemy of the pharaoh. The felonious or supposedly guilty vassal was called to appear before Pharaoh's court to justify himself, failing which Pharaoh set a faithful vassal to bring back the guilty one with his entire family in chains. The Pharaoh, being the incarnation of the divine Ka, legitimately exercised the power that he received from the god Amun Ra, creator of the universe, in order to maintain justice, peace, and law among mortals. The theory of individual will as a source of authority never existed in Egypt. All the peoples had to obey Pharaoh Thutmose III, according to the divine will of Amun Ra, who was not only the national Egyptian god, but the god of the whole universe, his creation. That is what is affirmed by the Karnak Stela, cited on page 85, and on which the 110 conquered states are enumerated. I have given you power and victory over all the nations. You have conquered the rebel hordes as I commanded, the earth in its length and its breadth. The people of the west and of the east are your subjects. No one was subjected to your majesty without myself having been your guide, so that you would succeed. All the peoples come bringing tribute to you on their backs, bowing before you as I have ordained. This was the philosophy of power that Thutmose III invented in order to create the first true empire in history. The king, in the righteousness of his heart, reigns accomplishing the divine will, according to a theory similar to that of the kings of the 12th dynasty, who succeeded in unifying the monarchy at the national level. The Egyptian solar cosmogony was imposed on all the conquered peoples of the empire, particularly in Asia, where Amun became identified with the Babylonian Shamash. Thus, the cult of Amun Ra, the Sun King, became universal and heralded the religious revolution of Amenephis IV, Akhenaten. The worshippers of Shamash, assimilated by Amun Ra, the father of the pharaoh, found it normal to obey him. The same was true for the local divinities of the vassal cities Sidon, Tyre, Byblos, Berytus, Gaza, Ascalon. The pharaoh became recognized as the representative of the gods. In this way, pharaonic domination over all of Western Asia was legitimized, even in the view of the local religions. On the other hand, we know that the individualistic Greek city state was historically condemned and then declined because it was never able to overcome the superstructural obstacle of the hostility of foreign gods to individualism. It thus never grew to become a large national territory, including several cities. These new forms of dependency are revealed by the official manner in which the vassal of Asia addressed the pharaoh. For instance, Radimer, the head of Byblos, wrote, "To my lord, my king, my son, Jibbo, Byblos, your servant, Radimer, your servant. At the feet of my lord the sun, 7 and 7 times I bow. May Baatla, the goddess of Byblos, give power to the king, my lord." The character of the sovereignty was juridically different depending on the whether of the pharaoh received it from the local gods or from the sun god. In latter case, it was more frequently direct and absolute. In the former, the pharaoh was the national king of the city because he held the power of the national divinities. For the republican, already at that date, towns like Tunip and Ergata, it was the established authorities of the city that pledged allegiance. For example, and I will stop there and we'll continue with Civilization or Barbarism. I'm Uriel Riley. Gratitude. Thank you.